Every once in a while, I find a plant on sale and I think to myself, I can fix it. And so today I'm going to give you the tips and tricks to reviving a houseplant that you bought on sale. I can't pass up a good houseplant deal, and this one was definitely a good houseplant deal. Now, most would look the other way and say absolutely not. This is very close to heaven's doors. However, I'm here to give you some tips and tricks on how I'm actually going to revive him and make him healthy. If you want to follow along on the journey of this revival, then I suggest you go give me a follow over on Instagram. But nonetheless, let's get into how I revive a sale plant. Now, one of the first things I want to take into consideration is lowering the stress level of the plant. It's sick, likely because it's stressed. Now, I will not buy a plant on sale if it has disease or pest, so keep that in mind. But something that just looks sickly, not necessarily a cause for the sickliness, I will consider rehabbing. But like I said, the first thing I want to do is reduce the stress. One of the best ways to reduce the plant's stress is to give it an environment that makes it happy. I will not repot a plant that I know is stressed out because repotting can cause transplant shock. It's not as obvious or as intense as what we see in gardening. However, it still affects the plant regardless of its visual appearance on the outside. So I will not repot these plants. What I will do, if it's a little bit floppy or weak looking, is stabilize it with a pole or some sort of staking. Other than that, I will not repot. Next up, what I want to do is actually consider warming up those roots. Now, this is a temporary thing and is not something that you want to do long term because it can result in the opposite effect and a more sickly plant. However, 3 to 4 days heat mat, which you typically use for seed starting, will help boost the plant's health and overall get the juices flowing. So a little heat mat is key. Now, when using this heat mat, I want you to really make sure that you're not allowing the soil to dry out. You want to keep that moisture up. The reason for this is because dry soil combined with a heat mat is really going to desiccate those roots. So to avoid this, we want to keep the moisture up a little bit while applying the heat. Like I said, only 3 to 4 days of this and then you gotta pop it off. Next up is humidity. So plants need humidity in order to respire. And classically speaking, with houseplants, you need really high humidity for this to be achieved. So what you want to do is supply that humidity. Now, a humidifier will work if you're in an enclosed space. However, one of my greatest hacks is actually just a bread bag or a Rubbermaid container. This will allow you to increase that ambient humidity without having to remember to mist and be able to achieve better results than having a humidifier running in an open room. Now, if you combine the humidity of the bag or the Rubbermaid box with the heat mat, the world is your oyster. You're going to see very good results. Now, this humidity can be kept up for a month or longer. I mean, it could be kept up indefinitely if you wanted to, but it's not nice to look at a plant in a bread bag, so keep that in mind. But I will keep it up until I see some new growth or some new growth that looks satisfying to me. So that is going to be very important. Next thing to look at is actually lighting. So when I'm rehabbing, you really want to increase the light exposure. Now, this can come in the form of putting it in a window, obviously making sure it's not going to get sunburn. That's important. But otherwise, just a full spectrum light, or even better will be a red blue. So a blurple light in particular is going to help with the rehabbing process. Again, this can be permanent. It can be a permanent addition for that plant, but ultimately you want to make sure it gets that until you again see that new growth. The new growth is the sign that the plant is happy and healthy. It's uptaking nutrients, it's photosynthesizing, all that fun stuff. So that is something to keep in mind there. The next thing is how I'm going to water. So I want to water on a regular basis and I want to try to keep that soil moisture relatively high. When I put my finger in, I do not want it to be dry, and I also never want to be able to pop the plant out and the soil be able to hold its structure. You always kind of want it loose and fluffy. So to be able to achieve this, you can use a fork and just tease, or chopsticks and tease around the roots, and obviously keep that moisture up, but not anaerobic. You want it to be aerobic. Just make sure you're watering, checking on it often. Between the heat and the humidity and the light, you're going to notice you're going to have to water probably pretty often compared to what you would normally with the rest of your houseplants. The watering, if you are really wanting to achieve some good growth, I mean, truly, I would do the pH adjusted water, kind of the whole video I did on the whole how to water houseplants. I'll link that down below if I remember. If I forget, remind me. But that's how I would water this plant to help it it really get a boost in its growth. The last thing, and this is particularly important if you know there's been root damage or you suspect there's root damage. So with this guy, I suspect there's been some root damage because I'm looking a little floppy here. So if you're noticing that, really important tip here is foliar fertilizer. So not all fertilizers can be applied foliar in a foliar application, only because the molecule size is too large to get across the stomata guard cell interface. So keep that in mind. However, there are a number of nutrients that can be taken up through a foliar application. And in particular, if you have roots that are struggling, something is better than nothing. So when I go to mist the plant, I want to include fertilizer. Now, before you say, Ashley, misting doesn't do anything, we already have debunked this. It does if it has fertilizer in it. It's literally that simple. So that foliar application is going to help this plant achieve greatness. And I can already tell I have root issues from that wobble. And then also the new growth tip on the stem, I'm noticing is looking a little bit wilted and sick and sad looking, which is generally a sign of a micronutrient deficiency, which again indicates to me that either the soil pH is off and or the roots are in some way damaged or lacking to support this entire plant. So I hope you guys found this helpful. Do not shy away from a sale plant. Grab that up because you can always rehab a plant. I can promise you that. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.